Good afternoon. New Year's Eve 2020. Wondering where 2021 will take us. Not really scheduled to be on here, but I have been playing this morning and thought I'd share with you what I've been doing and showing you how to do it. So I've been using wild roses. So this is a brand new set in the new mini catalogue, which I can still only show you the cover of, and this becomes active on the 5th of January, so not long to go. Some lovely things, including wild roses. And I played around with this, and first I used Memento, thinking I could colour it in individually, but I did the kind of ombre effect, and whilst it's nice, I didn't think it was perfect, so I then moved on to sticking to one colour. So I've ombreed across the card with Purple Posy, Highland Heather and Gorgeous Grape, and then the card base is Gorgeous Grape, cut a matte in Highland Heather and then Purple Posy, and then done the opposite, so we've got a kind of big effect across kind of both ways, both on the label and in the background. So It's a Happy Day is a sentiment from Pretty Parasol, because I thought it's quite a handy sentiment for all sorts of things. So I've chosen a range of yellows and a range of blues to show you a quick couple of cards using that effect to show you how I created it. As I say, I've from learning discovered that the using the ink background worked better for me. This does work on an F block, I think it's F is the biggest size. However, if you've got a Stamparatus, the Stamparatus is perfect. So we just place our card into the Stamparatus. Now I tend to choose the sort of mid colour. So in the yellows I've chosen Mango Melody, Daffodil Delight and So Saffron. So I've taken the Daffodil Delight and we can ink up. So with Stamparatus, take the ink to your stamp, give it a good coating of ink, and then with the card in situ. Now obviously this is going to get cut down, so not too worried as long as I've got the main bulk of it. So yeah, what tends to happen is the card then sticks to the stamp. So I just run that over, and when I peel that off, that gives us the ink. Now what I use to create the ombre effect is, I'm just gonna, our new blending brushes. So start with the paler colour. I'm not really expecting anyone to be on at this time of day because it's New Year's Eve. You're probably doing a million and one other things. Not that any of us are really going out this evening, obviously. I think most of the country is in tier 4, but it probably means that most of us then are at home unexpectedly perhaps. So if you do jump on, then obviously say hi. If you are likely to catch this on catch up, then say hi when you do catch up. And if you get a chance to play, now I mean obviously this can work with many different background stamps. So again, with the ombre effect, it really is building the colour from the lighter going to darker, although nothing says that it has to be in that ombre effect. You can play around to your heart's desire. And because I'm working from lighter ink to darker ink, I'm not particularly worried about cleaning my brush in between times, because most of the ink tends to come off. And then these I just wash in warm water. So once it's stamped on, obviously this is the darker end of it, but you can see we've sort of gone light to dark. It's not absolutely exact, but that's not something I'm going to worry about overly. And I tend to be someone that once I've got a stamp set out, I'll make a few different cards. Again, there's different, you can make one and put it all away and get out the next one, but for me it kind of works quite well in that way. So what I actually need is a card base in, well, I've probably got one in my box. Let's just have a quick rummage through my box. So the card base is the darkest colour, which hopefully I've got something, yay, like it when a plan works out. It's not the best folded one, so let's just match those ends up. So if you do have a problem and your card isn't exactly lined up, you can line those ends up and hold them and just use your bone folder to make it more accurate. But trust me, the person who's going to receive it is not going to look at it and pick fault with a odd millimetre of difference. So my card is 10.5 by 14.9, so for each layer I'm going to take off a 1/2 centimetre. So again, I'm doing it dark to light, so a 1/2 centimetre smaller for each layer. But you can see how quickly you can create a card. Oops, Daisy dropped my base layer. Oh, sorry, now I've just knocked you. Forgotten where I am with that layer. That's 9 point. Oh, hi Jeanette. Thanks for jumping on. Just been busy playing this morning with this new Wild Roses set, so I thought I'd quickly show you. The card I showed at the beginning was in the purples, so that will be a favourite with you. So having a crafty room clear out earlier on and found a whole load of tear and tape, so got a better start. Oh, that's just going to be too long for that layer. So just this is why tear and tape is not quite as good as using the. I know for some people it works a lot better. I think I'm just so used to using the stamp and seal. That's the joy of having many options of glue. Because if you preferred, you could glue this with Tombow. How you glue your layers is entirely up to you. So all I'm going to do I'd say quickly, but I don't have enough nails to pull the... So I'm going light to dark down the papers. I'm going to resort back to... That's why I have found a stash of tear and tape, because I find it isn't so easy to use for me, but that's because I'm not used to using it. But you can see how quickly we can build a card up. So check the opening of the card, because, and you know, you can choose. Oh, I think my stamp is that way up, so our ombre will go from dark to light at the top. So that one I've done that way round. Now the simple thing would help if I had my white card, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment in Mango Melody for this one, so I'm going to use that same It's a Happy Day. So what I've again chosen, I've actually moved to a slightly smaller punch. So that was using the Everyday label, this one is the Timeless label, but both of them have those straight edges. So what it allows us to do is stamp that sentiment, punch that out, and then punch a So Saffron layer, a Daffodil Delight layer, that one's alive, and a Mango Melody. Those out of the way, add those to my messy pile, and again, as I did the other day, all we do, cut each of these in half, and I sort of quite liked it being opposite way round. Now if you wanted to put an edge, if there's any ink left on the brush, it will just put a tiny little, you won't even be able to see it I suspect on the video, but it will just put a tiny edge. If you wanted more of an edge, you could use a sponge. But there's just a tiny bit of ink residue and it's just taking the edge off ever so slightly. So we just pop a bit of tape on, and again you can make it as short or as long as you wish, but you're lining up those straight edges and just having a piece popping out. As I say, it works with any straight edged punch, but doesn't tend to look as effective if you don't have a straight edge. Let's go from dark to light to keep the ombre effect going. Or you could just do one colour, you could do two. Just thought as I was in an ombre sort of mood. Now I've got a few edges aren't quite straight there, so I'm going to just trim those so that we have got an exact straight edge there. Pop a bit of tape across. This is Stampin' Seal Plus, which is a little bit stronger, which I think is probably better, and then essentially you can pop that wherever. Quite like it nearer the top there, I think, so just centrally wherever you fancy. I'm just going to pop it there. So there we've got a nice bright card in the yellows and a nice bit of yellow on our... So it's, yes, it is important to work on a, if you're going to do this, work on a some sort of background, because you will get in a slight inky mess. And so I will do this one slightly different, as I'm not going to do the layering ombres. I'm going to show that what effect you can create just in... I just need to clean off the stamp, so I tend to take my chamois and fold in half, just run that across just to get excess ink off. And so for the next one in the blues, I've got Seaside Spray, Misty Moonlight and Night of Navy. So again, I'm going to stamp the base in the Misty Moonlight. You could do it in the darker colour if you wanted, it's entirely up to you. It's really just showing you what can be done in a range of colours. So again, we know this is going to be cut down, so I'm not overly worried about the edges too much. Good. So the Stamparatus does make this an awful lot easier. So there we go. Not again, you know, that's not. I'm not going to worry about those areas because we're going to ink it in. Got a clean blend brush. They come as a pack of 3, which makes life a little bit easier. So again, I'm going to start with my Seaside Spray, but rather than do it across the card, oops, I'm going to do sort of sections. I'm going to do that top corner, maybe a little bit down here. Seaside Spray there. And going with the brush, you know, the more you go around, the more you'll build the colour up. So bring in our Misty Moonlight. That's a slight tonal difference, and then we'll go in with our Night of Navy. So it's just really playing around to see what you fancy. Tend to try and make sure that I'm shutting each ink pad as I go along, because otherwise I'm going to stick my hand into it or an elbow into it. And you can really build the colour up as much or as little as you want to. Remembering obviously we're going to cut some of those edges off, so where I've got that border around the outside doesn't really matter. You've got more of a, how's that looking, more of a sort of splodgy effect going on rather than that across the card. Ombre, that darker area in the middle I've not, so that's, I think that's where my sentiment's going to go, because I'm not entirely happy about that, but that's just personal. The recipient of said card will not notice. So I'm going to use that same sentiment because it's just the one I've got out, and I'm going to do it in Misty Moonlight. And I'm sticking to one colour range. Of course, it is perfectly possible to create a rainbow effect with multiple colours. So it's like an opportunity to play to your heart's content. just do 2. Let's just cut them out because we know it will get used at some point, don't we? Luckily I found a Night of Navy card base earlier, so that's the timeless label. Let's say this works with any. So that's a Night of Navy card base, so we'll cut the Misty Moonlight and the Seaside Spray. Again, I take a 1/2 centimetre off. You can do as little or as much as you want. As long as you remember your measurements as you go along. And if you forget, just measure your last bit and work with that one. Sometimes creating multiple layers, I forget where I've got with my 1/2 centimetre, so it's easily done. So obviously, because I've got this edge on this side, more needs to come off on that edge. Oh, it would help if I used my cutting blade rather than my scoring blade. So it's just, see, I've already done it. I'm chatting and forgetting, so that layer's 9.5, so this one needs to be 9. We've just got to pop that together, and you know, the choice then is which way round to make it portrait or landscape. I'll use all that tear and tape up when I'm not crafting live. You don't need to see me trying to peel the backing off tape. So you can see there, we've still got that same effect, but it's just more in the area. So again, I'm just going to cut these in half. Doesn't need to be overly accurate, but approximately. I might follow this one down in the same light to dark. See how that looks as a difference. So as a background stamp, the stamp set is £16. And I think this could also lend itself to a bit of fussy cutting. You could fussy cut out some of the flowers on another piece and add them in layers, which I think would be quite nice as well. Frighten the life out of me then. Sorry, that's why. I put a trap behind the door to remind my husband that I'm on a live, and he's just just tried to break into the room. So yeah, and again, it's just that I'm just not as happy with that area. So I'm going to make this. Before I stick that on, yes, make sure the card opens the correct way. Key piece of advice. Because actually it doesn't matter which way around it goes until I've put the sentiment on. And once the sentiment is on, we are committed. So we have a card that opens correctly. So there we go. So we have a yellows, purples and a blues, and that is featuring wild roses. So there you go. That is me for lives in 2020. So have a safe and happy new year, everybody, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side in 2021. Let's hope a better year is to come. All right, take care of yourself. Stay safe. Bye bye.